So here's the Bobcat 743. Got it back here from the property for the winter. Had helped me out on this driveway project, and then I'm doing some repairs to it. And one of the things that needed to be done was the spool valve. It was leaking oil occasionally. It'd leak a quarter a gallon, a half a gallon. Sometimes, and sometimes it didn't, but it'd been going on for a few years now, and it was kind of an inconvenience and certainly expensive to be throwing oil in it and just wasting it away like that. So here's how I went about doing it. To make this simpler, I just removed the engine. It was really pretty simple and only took a couple hours. There's a couple good reasons for doing this. One is the repair, of course. The other is I could clean all this. This thing's 30 years old, so there's dirt you can't get to and everything back in there. And then there's a drive joint between the hydraulic pump and the engine that I really didn't even know about. So it hadn't been serviced at least since we owned it. And 20 years, that's a long time. Now that was only 1,000 hours, using around the farm like we do, so. To make it easy to work in here, I pulled the pins on the cylinders and then lifted the arm up. I have a hoist in the garage that I could do that with, and then I strapped it up so it was safe. And with that, I could just lean in here and work on this in here. It was really pretty simple. The valve is located right in there. So it's kind of under the seat and under the tank. Pretty hard to get to. It's got a bunch of tubing tied to it. So with all these plumbing and everything, really there was only three things I detached. I detached this, kind of swung it out of the way. This is the hard line that goes to the cooler in the back, and it's removed because the engine was removed. And then down in here, I released that T-fitting from a 90-degree joint back there, and that allowed this arm to swing back far enough that I could get to everything in here. One of the things I decided to do was release this arm that's down in here, and that allowed it to swing away from the spool valve linkage over there and made it easier to get to everything. Well, okay, here's the deal. So I took these covers off, and it immediately looked to me like, well, gee, they don't even look like what was in the bag. So I have these bags here. These are 50 bucks a piece. And I guess I am thankful that a 30-year-old machine like this, they still sell parts for it. So that's a great thing. But it's kind of a universal kit. It's got all sorts of junk in it for whatever variation of spool valve they used on a 743. So this is the little dealie that is supposed to be this. So I was a bit confused about how to deal with this thing, because this thing here, it's got, it's just different. It's just different. So anyway, my Bobcat dealer's not very far away, so I went up there, and there's a mechanic there who's really nice. Or the parts guy was baffled, but he went and got a mechanic, and the mechanic was really nice and spent a few minutes and said, oh yeah, you just gotta tear these apart and put the new little rubber thing in there. So I've already done one, so I've kind of cheated, but I found out if I took this screwdriver, I just broke the glue or whatever they had in there, then the this little sintered bronze washer would break away, kind of like that, and then it's just a little rubber boot comes out. Okay, so that's a good thing. So now you just take the new one and squish it in there. And the way they've built it, it's proud of the little flange a little bit, so when you tighten it down, it's going to be nice and snug. So, well, and out of this kit, I can use the Allen head screws. Those are brand new. They got a little bit of new Loctite on them. That's pretty nice. Then I was told that if you had the rubber rings, which would be between this and the spool housing, then reuse the rubber rings. Well, I don't have them, so we'll forget those. Then there's pairs of seals here. We got orange pairs, black pairs, and green pair. Well, they call them green. They're kind of a turquoise looking color. Anyway, mine are black, so you set all those aside. They only have the black things. Now there's this little white plastic thing and a little bitty O-ring. And he said, well, okay, let's move on here. This is the arm spool, at top one in the block, that you would pull out. And although I watched this on the internet, somebody else has done some nice things with video, and they warn you that if you don't take this apart correctly, these springs and ball bearings will come flying out at you. Well, I took it apart incorrectly. I loosened the Allen bolts, which go through here, here and here, and then pulled the cap off. Well, when the cap came off, the spring and ball are through this hole, and the ball is part of this. It's a little poppet affair, and the housing for that is stuck left inside here. So what you're supposed to do is remove the C-clip washer. This should stay on the spool when you pull the cover off. And this is all together here, and then you pull this out of the block. Okay. So the little poppet balls and spring are inside there, and these washers are in the, and there's the O-ring, the black ones. They're inside the block, but they come out real easy. The washer comes out the end. This one actually stayed with the spool because it was right up against that. But we'll get rid of it for the moment, because I discovered something that I had not seen in previous videos. So we'll go through that. I haven't done this, so this is going to be somewhat exciting. So we got our two no good seals. So we got that nice little washer there. Okay, so inside this cone is two more ball bearings. And so if you push down on this, you can feel that those bearings, those poppet balls, hold this thing in place. Well, when this whole thing flew apart, I had my spring here, and I had both ball bearings, but I apparently lost one. But here's the big deal. So I'm looking at this ball bearing, and I find out that there's a flat spot on it. So I'm thinking this whole affair, being in here, is on the dry side of the valve assembly. No oil really gets in here. So it probably needs some sort of lubrication before you put the thing back together. And it sits there rubbing. The float position never worked on this Bobcat. We've had it for 18 years and it just never worked. So I'm wondering if these flat spots, and also had this weird deal where if you were, say you were lifting all the way, and so you smash the pedal down and make it go, it would lock on you. And then you're frantically beating the pedal the down way so that the thing wouldn't just go up there, and the hydraulic system goes into relief, and you know all this stuff goes on. It's not really a big deal. We've been dealing with that for all this time. But I'm wondering if the flat spot on the little balls here, you know, could be an issue. Well, anyway, while I was at the Bobcat dealer, they said this little plastic thing here is inside this. There's a little valve in there, I guess. And he said, don't go there. They never wear out. But since the thing isn't working right, I think I need to go there.